Hello, everyone, and good afternoon. Welcome. My name is Jeremy Leffler, and I work in the policy office at the National Science Foundation. And it's my pleasure to welcome you today to another session of the NSF Grants Conference. And I'm now pleased to introduce this session, which will cover important NSF system updates. And we've also asked our friends from SciENcv at the National Institutes of Health to join us to discuss the use of SciENcv for the preparation of the NSF biographical sketch and current and pending other support documents. Enjoy.
Hi, welcome to the NSF Systems Update. For your presenters today, there's two presenters from NSF. My name is Stephanie Yee. I'm one of the operations lead for the Research.gov system, FastLane system, and the Grants.gov integration. Today, I'm joined by a colleague, Alex Wilson. He is the lead for Research.gov account management. And this is our contact information in case you need to reach out to one of us after the conference. So for today's agenda, we're going to split this presentation in two. I'm going to start talking about the NSF.gov updates, some key dates for you to keep in mind for the FastLane decommissioning, and some of our most recent Research.gov enhancements. Alex will take over to Research.gov account management, reviewer integration, and some of our information resources and contacts. Updating NSF's digital footprint. So if you are visiting the NSF website, you've noticed that the URL is beta.nsf.gov. We have recently made this change, so it is now the new NSF.gov. So this is now a new homepage. We've also updated the navigation for this website. We're interested in connecting web visitors to the information that they are looking for. We've made a lot of improvements in the funding and awards. We made it a lot easier for people to be able to find funding opportunities and to be able to find information about awards that came out from those. We also updated the focus areas and the landing pages associated with those. We have done a lot of usability testing and to make sure people can find information very quickly within those focus areas. We've updated the content in many of the areas, including about NSF, BFA, NSF history, etc. So one of the key goals is to improve the user and customer experience. We help standardize, simplify the web presence of NSF. We made a lot of improvements on how to navigate seamlessly throughout the system to make it easier for people to find the information that they're looking for. And also, we've done a lot of work to remove the beta from across the site to make it more NSF-centric. If there is feedback on the website, something you're looking for or things that you like, please share your experiences with our survey. If you go to new.nsf.gov, there's a survey at the very top. It's under a banner, and you can provide your feedback to NSF there. Next, I'm going to talk about the key dates for the FastLane decommissioning. September 29th, pencil that in. So this is a slide. Just take a look at this. It is broken up by 3, but September 29th is the main theme here. For FastLane, if you are a FastLane submitter, if you submitted your proposal through FastLane, you're able to access that information all the way up to September 29th. If you submitted a proposal recently, you'll be able to submit updates to those, proposal file updates or budget revisions up until 5 p.m. submitters local time, September 29th on a Friday. The last date to withdraw a FastLane submitted proposal will also be Friday, September 29th, 5 p.m. submitters local time. The last row is really important for all administrators and for PIs. The last day to view or access or download any previously submitted FastLane proposal, the last day to view any in-progress, non-submitted FastLane proposal data will also be Friday, September 29th. The time on this is 11 p.m. because that is the time where we restart the servers and services are officially cut. This is the last time you'll be able to access that data. So if you were relying on FastLane as a repository for these previously submitted proposal data. Please don't do that anymore. It is not a repository. We will be cutting off access to those on September 29th. So please take this as a prompt. Instructions for you to download this data is here. There are links here to make it easier for you. Please go ahead and instruct your staff, instruct your PIs to access this before September 29th. On this slide as well, there is a link to a FastLane decommissioning page for your ease. I want to talk a little bit about the nuances about budget revisions and proposal file updates. So for a while, since 2018, NSF had allowed both submissions in Research.gov and FastLane. If you submitted your proposal in FastLane and you need to make updates to that, you have to do it in the system that it was originally submitted in. So if you submitted a FastLane proposal, you can do your updates only in the FastLane system. So again, the first row is indicating September 29th. Grants.gov is a little more nuanced. Grants.gov submissions prior to November 18th are FastLane proposals. So if you submitted Grants.gov, let's say September 2022, you still have the ability to modify that proposal in FastLane up until September 29th of 2023. If you submitted a Grants.gov proposal after November 18th, so November 21st, you have to modify that proposal in Research.gov. So just keep those dates in mind. November is the time frame that you need to remember if you're a Grants.gov user or system-to-system user. For FastLane, just remember September 29th is the last day you can access that. The next slide is regarding supplemental funding requests. So these are similar to proposals, but they are supplemental funding for existing awards. Same story here. The last day to withdraw any pending supplemental funding requests is Friday, September 29th at 5 p.m. And the last day to view, access, download any previously submitted FastLane supplemental funding requests will be Friday, September 29th, 11 p.m. I mentioned previously the FastLane decommissioning site. So this was something that was requested pretty often by people who wanted to know where we were in terms of migrating functionality from FastLane to Research.gov. Because there's so many modules, so many individual features that were not migrated at the same time, it was very difficult to keep track of that. So we have developed a FastLane decommissioning page. You can access this through navigation. If you go to Research.gov and go to the About Proposal Submission, you'll have links to the FastLane system decommissioning site. It's pretty long. It goes into proposal submission, supplemental funding, notifications and requests, and it'll give you a really nice one-page view on where we are with the migration, if it's already been migrated, or maybe it's moved on to another site. So for example, some of our reports or informational type of information has been moved to NSF.gov instead. So although FastLane submitted proposals in progress, letters of intent, proposals, supplemental funding requests, they will not be transitioned or migrated to Research.gov. So if they lived in FastLane, they will stay in FastLane. The reviews and statuses of those proposals are all available in Research.gov. So in Research.gov, there is a proposal status. You can still access reviews, PO comments, statuses in Research.gov. All right, next I'm going to talk about recent Research.gov proposal enhancements. So we have a lot of updates. I don't have a lot of screenshots. So we have some changes that have went in effective May 22nd, 2023. So our most recent release. We have finally made it. We've expanded and we've moved over all FastLane proposal functions to Research.gov. The last piece that we were waiting on are the postdoc fellowships that require reference letter writers. There are 2 solicitations at NSF that require letters. So those are finally migrated in May. So those are for PRFB and MSPRF. One exciting feature we are adding to the proposal submission process, we are adding a capability for people to move or swap PIs and co-PIs. So this is nice because if you have a proposal with multiple PIs, maybe you designate another person as the main PI. Right before May, there was not an easy way to move people around. So now we have a very nice feature where you can move and elevate a co-PI to a PI or vice versa. The third one is a request from a lot of other authorized users and the sponsored project office, where there was not an easy way for people who are working on a proposal who are not the PI to easily see in one spot their proposal errors and warning messages. So we realized this was a very important feature, especially for other authorized user, to be able to identify places that they need to fix in the proposal. So we've added a new button to the proposal action area where you can see just with one click all the errors and warning messages in one spot. The next change is related to project data forms. So this does not apply to all solicitations or all opportunities at NSF. This is primarily restricted to the STEM directorate. We are adding more disciplines and more sub-disciplines in that project data form. The last change we've made is actually a change regarding grants.gov. We updated the NSF senior key personnel profile. So now people have the ability to add the SAM UEI number for the prime organization. And that way, once you identify that, it will be more seamless when you add senior personnel for it to be translated to Research.gov. So right now that is, before May, it was not something that was there, but now it is there. So there's more seamless compatibility between grants.gov and Research.gov. All right, next is Alex is going to take over for Research.gov account management, reviewer integration.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. My name is Alex Wilson, and I am an IT project manager at the National Science Foundation in the Division of Information Systems. Today, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Research.gov account management and the reviewer integration that was recently released in March of this year. First, let's talk about what is account management and what is NSF working to do overall. So the NSF vision for account management is to set up a single unique identity that persists across all NSF business applications for each member of the research community, and it will continue throughout their entire career. The concept of setting up one account in Research.gov for each user, and then from that one account, they can have one or more roles. So once they set up their first account, then they don't have to create another account. We've already set up a Research.gov account management for principal investigators, admin and coordinating officials, as well as graduate research fellowship program applicants and fellows. And this functionality was expanded at the end of March 2023 to include reviewers. In this first iteration of reviewers, we are including all participants that are added to an NSF panel, site visit, advisory committee, subcommittee, or committee of visitors. And these are for all meetings created by NSF staff after March 24, 2023. At the bottom of the left-hand side that you see there, NSF is also working to develop functionality for ad hoc reviewers and then other participants in the future. And those other participants can include undergraduate students, graduate students, postdoc fellows, as well as faculty. And let's talk a little bit about why we're doing this and what's important. So what's really helpful about the concept of Research.gov account management is that it's going to help NSF improve merit review and post-award processes, helping to deliver effective experiences through the entire proposal lifecycle. It's also going to reduce administrative burden. We're allowing users to have their one account, and then they create one or more roles. Once they fill out their information, they will not need to update it again unless they would like to in the future. This also reduces burden from program staff as they are looking to make sure that we are filling panels with diverse and experienced professionals. We're also working to improve data quality, and we're working to improve analytics and reporting. And the concept of account management will help to create a seamless user experience. Okay, so let's go into some details about the latest reviewer integration from Research.gov Account Management. So when NSF program staff add a reviewer, also known as meeting participant, when they add them to an NSF panel, a site visit, an advisory committee, a subcommittee, or committee of visitors meeting, that user will be required to have an NSF account in Research.gov and complete a simple one-time process to provide their reviewer profile information. In the couple months since the release, we found that the process takes about 5 minutes, and many of the users who are completing this process already had a Research.gov account as a principal investigator. So much of this information for them has already been pre-populated, and they only need to provide a little additional information to provide their reviewer profile. For the second bullet here, it's important to note that these reviewers or meeting participants, they must complete this new process before they can access meeting registration in the FastLane travel and reimbursement system. The link to register in FastLane travel and reimbursement will be disabled until the 5-minute one-time process is complete. Currently, individuals cannot volunteer to review or provide reviewer profile information in Research.gov without first being added to a meeting. However, we are looking at functionality in the future for individuals to be able to volunteer to review and share their expertise with NSF. We have lots of great information and training resources available. If you'd like to learn more, please see the Research.gov Account Management Reviewer page that is hyperlinked on the slide, and you can check it out from the handout. This page is also going to be updated as additional reviewer groups are integrated. Earlier, I spoke about ad hoc reviewers and NSF's work to do that in the future. We will be updating that page as well. We also have a 6-minute provide reviewer profile information video tutorial, and that provides an overview of the one-time process. Okay, so let's go over just a few quick details about how reviewers self-manage their profile and how they can select options for their gender. So when the reviewer receives the email prompting them to complete their reviewer profile information, they will enter a unique invitation code, and then they will follow a 5-step wizard to provide their reviewer profile information. At every step of the 5-step wizard, there are different sections that they need to complete, including contact information, demographic information, academic information, and professional information. This is also an opportunity for these reviewers and meeting participants to provide organizational affiliations and areas of expertise. When the reviewers and meeting participants are filling out their demographic information, the questions available to them include gender, race, ethnicity, and if they have a disability. For gender, there are 4 options available, and they can select any that apply to them. They can choose male, female, a new option, unspecified or another gender identity, and the 4th option is do not wish to provide. This is not only available for reviewers, it is also available for principal investigators, as well as postdoctoral fellows in account management. All right, so we went over the details for the recently released Account Management Reviewer integration. And now we're going to move on to the next section of the presentation, where we talk about information resources, as well as contacts for questions. All right, so we're on the information resources page. There's a lot of really great links here and things that you can bookmark. You can check them out during the presentation as well as after the presentation. The first one here is definitely the most important. We would love for you to join our NSF System Updates listserv. This is how you can receive the latest Research.gov system enhancement information and FastLane decommissioning news. Sign up by sending a blank email to system_updates-subscribe-request@listserv.nsf.gov. You don't need to put anything in the body. You don't need to put anything in the subject. Just send that blank email over, and then you'll get a confirmation afterwards, and then you'll be set up. Also on our information resources page, we've got the automated compliance checking of NSF proposals. That's a great link to bookmark and have available in case you have any questions. Please feel free to look at the FastLane decommissioning page. That provides a good summary of what my colleague Stephanie was talking about earlier in the presentation. Next, we've got the NSF biographical sketch and current and pending other support websites. And we do have some Research.gov account management pages available for you. The About Account Management page has some great videos, as well as frequently asked questions and guides. And we also have a corresponding reviewer page that provides some additional information regarding the topic that I spoke about a couple slides ago. When you have some free time, feel free to check out Research.gov About Proposal Preparation and Submission, as well as the About Supplemental Funding Request Preparation and Submission page. You can also check out the Proposal Preparation Demo site. You'll be prompted to sign into Research.gov if you're not already signed in. And similarly, you can look at the Supplemental Funding Request Demo site. And last but not least, we have resources for LaTeX users. Let's go over some quick contacts for questions next. If you do have any questions for program-specific or panel-related questions, you can contact the Cognizant NSF Program Officer, or POC. And then for all other NSF technical questions or for immediate assistance, contact the NSF Help Desk, 7 to 9 Eastern Time, Monday through Friday, except for federal holidays. We have email as well as phone available. We'll make sure to get back to you as soon as we can. If you do have any SciENcv technical questions or immediate assistance, we also have the National Institutes of Health Help Desk open, and you can email or you can create a ticket. And last but not least, we have policy-related questions can be directed to policy@nsf.gov. Thanks so much for listening today to both me and Stephanie. It was great to be able to share this information with you. I'm going to transition our section of the presentation over to the next presenter. His name is Bart Trawick, and he is representing the National Institutes of Health. Thank you so much. Over to you, Bart.
Thank you, Alex. Appreciate it. As Alex mentioned, my name is Bart Trawick. I work at the National Institutes of Health, the National Library of Medicine, National Center for Biotechnology Information. And today I'm here to talk about SciENcv, and hopefully you've had a chance to use it to fill out some of the forms that you need for NSF grant applications. And if not, I hope I make a great case on how SciENcv can be a boon to your productivity and help you with that process. So today we're going to be discussing what SciENcv is, how you access it and get into it, what's it like when you start working with forms that you need to have for your NSF grant applications. There's some outside tools that work with SciENcv. ORCID is the main one. And this can help you quickly gather information, fill out forms faster, and just make it a much nicer experience for you. There is a new step of document certification. PIs have to certify the documents they create. I'm going to show you how that happens in SciENcv, and I'll let you know that it's not something to worry about. It's pretty easy. Finally, we also allow in SciENcv the ability for delegation. So you can have an assistant help you fill out these forms if that happens in your typical workflow, and SciENcv is able to accommodate that. So let's start. What is SciENcv? This is our 10th anniversary. SciENcv started from a request of the Federal Demonstration Partnership, which is a consortium of research institutions and federal agencies that come together and talk about how to make the federal funding landscape a lot simpler and easier. And that was something that was came out of one of these forums many years ago and saying, hey, how can we make these applications a lot easier, especially if you're applying to many different science funding agencies? And that was the genesis of SciENcv. Number one thing, reducing the burden for researchers. We know that you're having to pull information from many different places and put it into a form, and all the forms were slightly different. So that was one of the things that we wanted to focus in on, how to reduce the administrative burden for researchers that are applying for grants. And one of the ways of doing that is by exploiting the data that you might already have existing in some systems. I'm going to show you some of the ways that you can do that to quickly fill out your forms in SciENcv. And finally, it helps the agencies as well. It helps us track the impact, see your career progression, whether you might start from an NSF grant as a graduate student, all the way through your career as you go on into science and make some great discoveries. So SciENcv helps in a multitude of ways. I have the URL for how you can find SciENcv, and that is a QR code representation of that URL if you want to check it out yourself. At the heart of it, SciENcv is a tool that helps you fill out both biographical sketches and financial support forms that are part of your grant application process to the National Science Foundation. And the financial forms that I'm talking about are known as the current and pending other support forms that capture your grants that you might have pending or already awarded for you. So when my parents ask me like, well, what do you do and how does this help researchers? I like to use analogies, and SciENcv is very similar. We just passed through tax season to a tax preparation software. So when every year when you have to fill out your federal income taxes, that's a PDF. Many people choose to use a handy program. It might be TurboTax or Free Tax USA or H&R Block. All of those things do have the same goal, which is to help you fill out the tax return, which is a PDF that gets submitted to the IRS. And think of SciENcv in the same way. It's a tool that helps you fill out biosketches and current pending other support forms that are part of your NSF grant application or your NIH grant application. So no matter what agency you're applying to, you kind of have the same nice, easy to understand interface. It guides you along the way. It makes sure that you're entering information the way that the agencies are expecting the information to be entered, that you're not making any kind of careless mistakes. It kind of keeps you corralled in so that you can have a fully compliant and successful application. And just like the tax preparation software is based on helping you fill out your tax return based on the tax code, SciENcv is helping you fill out these forms, which are based on the agency administrative guidelines. So when you're doing your taxes, if you have a question, you can go look at the tax code. When you're filling out your forms in SciENcv, we have links to the NIH application guide as well as the NSF application guide. So you can refer to those at any time, and it can help you fill these out quickly and accurately. SciENcv lets you store as many of these documents as you wish. So we realize that an investigator might have several applications that they're applying for. They might have a grant application that is specific to a clinical interest that they have. They want to have a biosketch that is tailored to that type of grant application. Perhaps there's a secondary research interest that's more general science, and they might want to have a separate biosketch tailored for that grant application. In SciENcv, you can have as many biosketches and financial aid forms, or financial support forms as you wish. Each year, you can update it into a new form. You can create PDFs at any time. If you find something that you want to add, once you look at the PDF, you can go back, correct it in SciENcv, and generate a new PDF on the fly. And finally, as I had mentioned earlier at the start, you can have a delegate that manages all of this for you. The system is set up to support this. It comes in handy. It supports that very common workflow that we see. And just know that while the delegate can set up the document for you and fill out all the information, the PI does need to come in and authenticate and create the final version of the PDF for submission to the agent. All right, so how do you access SciENcv? Again, I have the URL for SciENcv with the QR code representation. And Alex just gave us a great talk about signing up for a Research.gov account. And guess what? You use that very account to access SciENcv. So when you go to the homepage, you'll see a button there for National Science Foundation. If you click on that, it will redirect you to Research.gov. You sign in with that account that you've set up where you're managing all of that information at NSF, username, password. Once you sign in, it takes you back over to SciENcv and you can access your information. The account that you have at NCBI, there's many other parts to it, and I'll use a house as an analogy. You can think of your account that you set up as a house, and each of the rooms is a tool that works with different databases that we have at NCBI. And SciENcv is one of those rooms. There's a bibliography tool that's tightly integrated with SciENcv. I'm going to show you how that works. And you access your house through a door. So if you've set up your NSF account, your Research.gov login, you can access your account through that door. We support over 4,000 different sign-in possibilities, and you can have multiple ones added. So your house has several different doors you can enter to get into your house, and same for your MyNCBI account. If you have your Research.gov, you can set that up. You can enter your house that way. If you also have an NIH ERA Commons account, you can link that to SciENcv, access it through either of those doors. So you have several different options, and they can work simultaneously for you. So let's take a look at what is it like when you're filling out these forms. How does it work in SciENcv, and how does this make it quick and easy for you? So many of you, if you have been submitting new grant applications, you will know that in January, the forms for the National Science Foundation got updated to 23-1, and there were some changes that came along with that. This happened back in January, and SciENcv was working very closely with the NSF staff. We had SciENcv updated so that we could support this new form. The new forms asked for additional information that the 22-1 forms did not ask for. For example, now country is mandatory field in several places on these forms. So this is one difference that you'll see once you come into SciENcv if you've already been using it. If you had an older document that was based on 22-1, we've already gone ahead and updated it for you to the 23-1 format. So one thing that you might discover is if you haven't been back to SciENcv since this update, You might open up one of your biosketches and you'll find that you'll have some warning signs around some of the fields for your information. A quick hint is to go in and examine these. Most likely it's because the new form is asking for the country field to be filled out. And if that's missing because you had it filled out for 22-1, you come back, you want to create an updated version of your biographical sketch, that's probably what you need to fix right there. The other thing that you'll notice is that for the current and pending support in January, not only did we launch support for the new 23-1 forms, we also updated the interface to make it easier. It has a nice fresh look to it. There's lots of additional tools that make it easier to fill out. For example, if you're required to put in a date, then we have a nice date picker. We show you the format that we want the date to be presented in. You can type it in directly, or you can use the date picker to enter that information. If you have a required field that got skipped over, we draw that to your attention. We make it very obvious. If you're filling out a field that requires text, we let you know how many characters you have left. You can type that in. It will calculate it on the fly and let you know how much space you have left. So these are all very nice additions that we've put into this new interface. It makes it easier to fill it out, has a nice fresh look, and we think it makes the experience much, much nicer. So you will find this now if you go in to fill out the current and pending support forms for NSF. We are working on bringing this new interface over for the biographical sketch side as well. You can fill out a biographical sketch. We do support the 23-1, but later this summer, you're going to notice that you have a nice new interface on top of it. So what do you need to do once we launch this new interface for the bio sketches? And the answer is nothing. You don't have to do anything at all. The form remains the same. All the data that you've entered remains the same. We don't make any changes there. You're just going to have the nice updated clean interface to help you fill out the form. So there's nothing that needs to be done on your part, and we're going to make some announcements ahead of time so that it won't take you by surprise. And we'll let you know when you can go into SciENcv and you'll have this new interface for filling out the bio sketches. So we talked about ORCID, and I mentioned that ORCID is a tool that you can use to help fill out information in SciENcv. So what is ORCID? What is that about, and how can it actually help you? Well, first of all, if you have an ORCID account, and ORCID is a free account you can sign up for, it stands for Open Researcher and Contributor ID. You sign up for one of these free accounts, it's also an authentication route to access SciENcv. So if you have your Research.gov, you can add in an ORCID account as well. You can use either of those to access your information. The ID part of it is it provides you with a persistent identifier. Extremely helpful for researchers, particularly if you have a common name or if your name changed at some point in your career. Having a persistent identifier makes it really easy to find all of the things that you've published. It comes in handy when you're publishing. Many publishers now accept these ORCID identifiers. If you send in a manuscript and you include your ORCID ID, oftentimes once that article becomes published, it will automatically populate into your ORCID account. So really great advantages for having this persistent identifier. And you'll also notice that persistent identifiers are now optional on several of these forms. So I'm going to show you how you can use that, and it will automatically fill in with SciENcv. ORCID provides you with a profile. Much like a biographical sketch, you can put in information on where you went to school, where you've worked, things that you've published. All that profile information that you've set up in ORCID, you can use it to pre-fill out forms in SciENcv. We'll take a look at that. And finally, all of the citations that you have in ORCID are available for you in SciENcv. So when you're filling out those particular sections in the biographical sketch, you can just pull them right from your ORCID profile. Okay, so let's take a case where you've got a SciENcv account, you access it through Research.gov. This sounds pretty intriguing. You want to know how to access this greatness that ORCID kind of provides you. How do you add it to SciENcv if you've already been signing in with Researcher.gov? So once you've signed in to SciENcv, and you'll see that you're signed in the upper right, you'll see your username there. You click on that button to access your account settings. Within your account settings, there's a section called Linked Accounts. You'll click Change. And then we provide you with all of the other options. It is a vast list of more than 4,000 different options. You can start searching for ORCID. We'll use that to filter the list down. You find ORCID, you click on it. SciENcv will send you over to the ORCID sign-in page. You authenticate, and then boom. Now you've linked your ORCID account to your existing SciENcv. It'll be linked to your Research.gov account. It'll be linked to your ORCID account. You can use either of those new doors to access your information. So that's how easy it is to add in an ORCID if you already have a Researcher.gov, and vice versa. If you have ORCID, you want to add your NSF, you do it the same way. Once you've linked your ORCID account to SciENcv, you can use that account to add information to the forms that you fill out. So when you've linked your ORCID, you go in to create a new current and pending other support form or a new biosketch. If you have an ORCID account linked to SciENcv, we will automatically add the ORCID identifier to the form for you. So that when reviewers get this information, they'll see your name, they'll see your ORCID information. They can go look at your profile on ORCID if they wish. This is optional at this point. You don't have to add your ORCID. We're going to assume if you've linked your ORCID account to SciENcv that you'd like this added, but you can override that and decide to suppress that information. But by default, we'll add your ORCID ID to the forms that you make in SciENcv. If you've got your ORCID profile filled out with lots of great information, where you went to school, your employment history, this can be used to pre-populate biographical sketches. So if you've linked your ORCID account, you're ready to create a new biosketch, you choose NSF biosketch as the format. You have the option to pick external data to pre-populate it. If you pick ORCID and say create, what the system will do is we'll go out, it will look at your linked ORCID account, it will pull information that you have from that linked account, and it will pre-populate the form for you. It fills out much of it right off the bat. Your information on your employment, it puts your ORCID ID in there. Professional preparation is all filled in. It's a big time saver. You don't have to enter that information in. Once that information is added into your form, you have complete control over it. It's static at that point. You can go in, you can edit any of the fields, you can decide to include some fields, delete other rows. It's all up to you. So the information is pulled in from ORCID, it's used to pre-populate the form, and then you use it as you see fit. You make any changes there, we don't overwrite what was back in ORCID. It just is a change to that local version of your biosketch. When you're filling out a biographical sketch, one of the sections has to do with products that you might have published, research articles, peer-reviewed publications. When you have a SciENcv account, we have a bibliography tool that comes with it. It's separate. You can keep citations in that bibliography tool. You're able to add them to your biographical sketch. If you've linked your account to ORCID, you'll have a second option where you can use your ORCID citations. So all the citations that are in ORCID, you're able to pick and choose from either of these tabs and add citations, some from my bibliography and some from ORCID. It's up to you. ORCID has a really big advantage over the bibliography tool that we offer by default. And what that is ORCID works with a very large, diverse group of citation databases. So if you publish in a physical science or social science type journals, ORCID has connections to many of those citation databases. It's very powerful on how it can pull that information into your ORCID record. So this should be of great interest if you're applying for NSF grants. You are publishing in that space. NIH deals mostly with life and biological sciences. We have PubMed that's tightly integrated. ORCID expands that out into many different other fields of science. So from that basis alone, it's a huge boon if you're interested in having this information quickly brought into your biosketch to fill out in SciENcv. There's something else that we also provide, and this was based on feedback that we received from you, from the people that were using ORCID in SciENcv, and one of the problems they had, you might be familiar with this if you publish these types of articles where you have a gigantic author list. You might have a collaboration that includes hundreds of scientists, which is fantastic. You're all working together, but when you have a page limit of 3 pages, giant author lists sometimes can get you in trouble. In SciENcv, we have an option where you're able to edit that author list. So you can truncate it down according to the specifications laid out, make sure that your name is on there, maybe have et al, and reduce it down to a more manageable size. When you create a biographical sketch, we don't throw any of this information out. On the printed page will be the truncated version, but all of the data is attached to that and is sent off to the agency. So it's a plus for the researcher side, it's a plus for NSF. They get all this information, everybody wins. What this example is showing here is the new interface. So it's not available today, but it's going to be available later this summer. Currently, we have the edited version as a separate tab, but as part of our update to make this interface nice, easier to use, we've brought all that information into a single view. So it's all right there in front of you. You can see what the edited version is, what the full version is. You can change how you edited it. You can just remove the edited version. All of this is available in a single tab, and it's tested very nicely. So I also want to take the time to thank the people that have worked with us to improve it and give it a try. For the final part of my talk, let's take a look at certifying these documents in SciENcv. I told you it's easy. Let's take a look. When you are in SciENcv and you are the PI and you are ready, you've reviewed all the information that's in the particular document that you're creating. When you click download PDF, you're going to be presented with a modal dialog for you to review and confirm that you are, in fact, the appropriate party to be signing this, and that everything is true and accurate. When you click agree, then SciENcv will put a timestamp on, notifying right on the PDF that the date and the time that you reviewed and agreed to the certification, and it's put onto the document. So one click, it's all done. You get the PDF, it's marked as certified, it's ready to be submitted over to the National Science Foundation. So that's easy for the PI. Another thing that makes it easy for the PI is if you have a delegate that manages filling out these forms for you. So that sounds interesting. How can I have a delegate help me fill these things out? And it's very simple to add a delegate to manage your account. When you're signed in to SciENcv, if you've accessed us through Research.gov or ORCID or however you sign in, again, you click on your username once you're signed in, go to account settings. You'll see the account setting preferences. The bottom section is for delegates, and you can add a delegate. When you choose that option, you give us the email address of the person that's going to be helping you, and the system will send out an email invitation for them to come help manage the account. When that individual receives the email, they click on it, they access SciENcv, they sign in through their authentication path. They might have a different Research.gov account. As Alex pointed out, people have it for different roles. They can sign in through that. They can sign in through ORCID, through Google. There's over 4,000 different options. But once they accept that and sign in through their authentication route, now they've been linked to your account and they are a delegate for you that can help fill out this information. They see things in a slightly different way. They have their own SciENcv. They can make their own documents. Maybe this is a research assistant that's in your lab. They have their own biosketch that they're providing. And what they'll see is delegated CVs. They'll see the individuals that they are able to go in and work on their biographical sketches. When you click on that, so in this example, I've been made a delegate for Dr. Jane Doe. I click on that link. I can see Dr. Doe's, all of the things that are in their SciENcv account, and I can help work on those biographical sketches. When you're in working on one of the documents for the person that you've been delegated for, there's a very prominent banner that lets you know you're working as a delegate for this person. So you're not confusing, wait, is this my document? Is this their document? We make it very clear with this banner. There's a button if you want to go back and work on your side, everything will be saved. You can go back and work on your documents. So it's very straightforward. Now, what about certification now? You know, I mentioned that the PI has to certify these documents. So if you're a delegate for a PI, you're not able to certify it for them. And you're going to see that the PI has to go in and certify it. So you'll work on their document, but once you get it to a spot where they're ready to certify it, you'll have to notify them, hey, Dr. Doe, I got it all fixed for you. Go and take a look and then certify it and produce the PDF. We've gotten feedback on how to make this better. And one of the ways that you've told us that this could be better is if the delegate, you understand delegates can't certify it, but if they could get a preview of what the PDF is going to look like before they ask Dr. Doe to go in and finalize things, that would be really helpful. So we are adding that in to the updated interface that's going to be available later this summer. You're going to be able, as a delegate, to view a draft of the PDF. And if you click that, we'll take the information, we'll generate a PDF. It's going to look exactly like it will look for your PI when they generate it, except it's going to have draft, a watermark on it. So it'll be obvious to you that it's not the certified version. And if you mistakenly tried to submit it to NSF, NSF is going to recognize that and let you know, hey, this isn't the correct document. So we are adding this in, so you'll be able to preview it. Make sure for your own eyes, a PDF looks perfect. Dr. Doe is going to love this, and then you can go ahead and let them know it's time to go in and certify it. So once you're happy with it, you looked at the PDF draft, everything's looking good, go ahead, let your PI know, I've got the document ready for you. They'll sign into their side of SciENcv, they can review it, and when they generate the PDF, they will be presented with the certification dialog. They agree to it, yep, this looks good, and then we will timestamp it and generate the PDF. Once they've done that, they've certified that, you as a delegate, you can download for yourself that certified document that the PI has gone in, certified. You can get a copy of it if you need it, if you're the one that's actually managing the upload. PI can send you what was generated, or you can download it for yourself once they have certified it. If the PI goes in and makes any kind of change, it's no longer certified, and it will have to go through that button click again in order for it to have certification with a new timestamp. So it's pretty straightforward. And later this summer, we're going to have the new ability where you can preview the PDF before you have your PI go and take a look at it. All right, so how can you be involved? And I have 3 different ways to propose to you. Number one is we are often constantly doing surveys and workshops and other things, testing opportunities. I have the insights. This is the NCBI blog post. And this URL particularly goes to our outreach events. That's the QR code for it. Sherry Bailey from our help desk did a really fantastic guide in February for SciENcv, and all of the workbooks and modules are still available. So you can, if you're interested, you weren't able to attend that workshop, we have it all the materials are still available. You can go to this URL here, that's the QR code for it. You can access these self-paced workbooks and try it out for yourself. Finally, you can always contact SciENcv. We have links on our web pages. You can write directly to our email alias, info@ncbi. We're happy to help you. Refer to the policies and procedures guide. We have documentation. We have a big YouTube tutorial channel that shows all these MyNCBI features. In addition to SciENcv, we show you how to use the bibliography. Those videos are available for you anytime. Again, there's the homepage and the email alias. So I thank you for your attention, and I hope that you use and enjoy SciENcv.
Okay, if I could welcome back our presenters from NSF and from NIH. We'd like to get into some of the questions. I want to thank all of my colleagues for pounding out questions in the Q&A while this presentation was going on. Thank you for that. So do take a look at those questions that have already been answered. And we're going to, what I'd like to do is start with some of the questions that came in earlier in the presentation that were specific to NSF systems, and then we'll transition on to talking more about SciENcv, the BioSketch, and so forth. So let me start, Stephanie, with you and Alex. The first, so I have a series of questions. We had a lot of questions of FastLane and what is still available and where do I go in FastLane, or what can I still see in FastLane? Do I have to go to Research.gov? So first question is all FastLane data being moved to Research.gov? And if not, how should projects be administered if they were originally submitted in FastLane? So maybe you could talk about that a little bit.
Okay, there's some nuances to that. So I want to start out with, if you have a submitted FastLane proposal and it is still pending, meaning there's not an award, there's not a declination yet, that proposal itself remains in FastLane. You will not be able to do any sort of proposal file update or budget revisions after September 29th. However, at NSF, we can still work on that proposal. We still see it. We're not deleting anything. We can still perform awards or whatever from our end. If there is a need for you to do an update for a FastLane submitted proposal, we would handle that through offline mechanisms. So we would work with you if you are in this boat of a pending FastLane proposal that's not yet awarded. If you need to make updates to that, we will handle that on a case-by-case basis after September. For FastLane submitted proposals that have been awarded, now that information, all post-award actions, activities you may need to do with that award, is all done through Research.gov. So once an award is made and there are post-award actions for project reporting, maybe you need to submit a notifications and requests. Maybe you need to see reviews from a panel. All of that is done in Research.gov. What is not being moved over to Research.gov is a proposal. So a FastLane proposal, a FastLane supplement, that is not being transferred over to Research.gov. So I know it's a lot of information. I hope that is clear. FastLane proposal data is not being moved, but if it's an award, all of your post-award actions are available in Research.gov today.
Okay, I think that answered another question that had come in, but I also wanted to ask, after the transition, is there a way for institutions, faculty, administrators to request copies of FastLane items after this transition?
So the answer is yes. The way to do that, you cannot do it through the system. You would have to submit a FOIA request to the NSF FOIA office. I will pre-warn you that that process is a pretty lengthy process. It is not something that they could turn around quickly and provide you a copy, a zip file of everything. They have to go through a series of finding out who you are and making sure you have the appropriate data and what information that you should have. So this is why we're trying to reach out to people now. If you have access to this information, you should download it now. It will be much faster and much quicker than going through the FOIA office. But if for some reason your PI or maybe you need access to a proposal, you forgot to get access to that after September, you would have to go through the FOIA process. You would not be able to call IT Up Central to get that copy.
Okay, another FastLane Research.gov related question is asking if there is a way to identify in which system a proposal was submitted.
In research, so all proposals, regardless of which system they were submitted at, you can see them under proposal status when you go to Research.gov. However, that screen doesn't tell you how it's submitted. So I would say probably the short answer is no. You would not be able to take a look in Research.gov to know which system you submitted in. However, in Research.gov, the proposal submission module only lists proposals submitted in Research.gov or proposals that were submitted in Grants.gov after November of 2022. So it's kind of a not as direct way of saying, short answer is no, but the proposals you can see in Research.gov are Research.gov proposals.
Okay, the last question I have for you, actually it's my last question, but Stephanie, if there were other things that you saw that you wanted to mention before we move on to SciENcv, by all means, please do that. But the question that I have is asking about the difference between Grants.gov and Research.gov. What I'll say is that obviously Research.gov was built for NSF-specific proposal process and policies. But perhaps you could talk a little bit about the major differences and how Research.gov integrates with Grants.gov submissions.
Yes. So Grants.gov is a federal-wide website where you can submit grants to any agency, and NSF is one of those agencies. However, we want people to realize that Grants.gov is a doorway, if you will, to get to NSF. So when you submit a proposal through Grants.gov, it goes through a series of checks before it gets into NSF. And because it is a separate system, it's not real time, meaning as you submit your package through Grants.gov, we're not going to tell you right away which sections need corrections, what things we're seeing or what we're expecting for that solicitation. So the biggest, for me, from a user standpoint, the biggest difference is the real-time feedback of, section by section, what you need to do to comply with the NSF requirements. Because we are doing a lot of checks before it gets to NSF, there's a lot of what I call pre-checks and post-checks. We make sure that the proposal is it's all formatted correctly, but we're also checking for NSF standards. We're checking for page counts. We're checking for certain documents are there. So those things take time. So I think what a lot of people don't realize when they submit in Grants.gov, it's not at NSF. It goes through a journey of several checks, and that is not instantaneous. And you may need to have several iterations of Grants.gov in order to get that proposal good enough to be submitted in Research.gov. And some solicitations out there are even more specific. They have separate forms that are only specific to that program that you still need to complete before submitting your proposal. And you have to be watching out for the emails from NSF saying, hey, we received your proposal in grants.gov, but you have to complete your application in Research.gov. So it's not a, you submit in grants.gov and you're done. It still needs to go through a lot of checks. So I would say it's to say a gateway. It's not NSF. So I just want people to realize that.
Great, thank you. Stephanie, Alex, are there other topics that you wanted to touch on before we transition to some of the questions that came in for SciENcv?
Not for me.
No, not at this time. I know we want to save some time for Bart to go over the questions on SciENcv. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you both. Okay, Bart, we had a lot of questions on that came in during your portion of this presentation, and a lot of those questions were focused on ORCID and how it interacts with SciENcv. So I thought we could just take a few minutes just to kind of level set how ORCID works with SciENcv, just to answer a lot of those questions that were coming in to the Q&A.
Sure, happy to discuss that. So ORCID is a separate system from SciENcv. Like SciENcv, SciENcv is free. ORCID is also free. You can sign up independently for accounts. And I showed in the video how to link the ORCID to SciENcv, which is really nice. It can be a great time saver. The data kind of comes over into these documents in two ways. And one way is when you say, I want to create a new document, I want it based off my ORCID profile. In that instance, we do a one-time pull, or we go to your ORCID profile that's been linked to your SciENcv. We go to that profile, we pull all the data that has been marked public. So in ORCID, you have very fine control over every single item that's in your profile. You can mark some things as private. We only pull the things that you've marked as public. That will come over and populate your document you're creating. Okay, so that's a one-time pull. Everything goes in, gets you off to a very quick start, and it's static. Once we've pulled it in, you're able to go in, you make any changes that you want. The second way that data kind of gets in there is when I was showing the citations. So ORCID has your profile information. It's also fantastic at pulling and aggregating your citations into that profile. We have a live look at those citations. So when you come to the portion of the biographical sketch where you're adding in works that you have authored, that's a live snapshot, and it's a pick list. And so you pick the ones that you want to include in this section. SciENcv counts. We know that you can only have 5 for each of these. It lets you know, oh, you just hit 5, you can't add any more. So those are sort of the two different kinds of pulls that we get from ORCID. The first one is one-time pull, static, everything goes into the document. And the second one is which of the citations that are in ORCID that you want to use, and those will get added. ORCID is really great at updating that profile for you. I have an ORCID ID. You saw it on the slides. And last summer, I had a publication, and I submitted my ORCID ID to the publisher. And ORCID let me know when it was published before the publisher even did. And it just automatically, it matched my ID with what the publication had and automatically added it into my ORCID account. So it was ready to go for me to use in SciENcv. So ORCID is really great at working with all these different databases and pulling your citations into your account.
Okay, so likewise with, as we had a lot of questions on ORCID, we had a lot of questions about delegates. So I saw a number of questions asking, so for example, can you remove yourself as a delegate? What does the delegate see? How many delegates can someone have? So can you talk a little bit more about the delegate function in SciENcv?
Yeah, absolutely. So when a PI would like to have a delegate work on their behalf, as I showed in the screenshot, there's an option to add someone, and you provide an email address, and we send a message to that email address. And then the person that receives it signs in to SciENcv through whatever. They might have their own ORCID account. They can use that to log in. It's up to them. Once they've been linked, now that delegate can operate on your SciENcv and can make changes. update documents for you, etc. And I kind of showed we tried to make it very apparent that you are working as a delegate in this document, because you have your own SciENcv documents yourself, possibly. Maybe a graduate student, for example, is managing the documents for the PI. So they might have their own biosketch they want to have for themselves. And when they go in to work on the PI's biosketches, it should be pretty obvious for them. Another thing we had, a question that we often get is, can someone be a delegate for many different PIs? And the answer is absolutely yes. We have seen there might be someone that works in the department and they kind of organize all the biosketches for people. So they might be a delegate to 5, 6, 7 different PIs, and they could go in and manage. Those will all be listed when they sign in to their SciENcv account. They'll see all the different accounts that they've been linked to as a delegate, and they can go into any of those accounts and then work in those accounts. So that's how you become a delegate and how you work as a delegate. How do you get removed? Currently, the PI has that ability. They can go into their settings menu and say, you know what, this person doesn't need access anymore, and they can remove it. We have heard from people that are delegates that said, hey, the PI left, I'm still their delegate, and I don't have any way to contact them. Can I remove myself as a delegate? So we're working to add that capability as well, so that you wouldn't have to contact this person to remove yourself, that you, in the future, you will be able to remove yourself as someone's delegate. In that example, if the PI leaves, hey, I'm still hooked to their account, I want to just get off of it. We're going to add that functionality coming soon.
Okay, another question related to delegates was whether PI should be mindful of which email address they're using when they're adding a delegate. Is it have to connect to that SciENcv account?
So what will happen is the email is generated and it has a unique URL in that. So when the recipient of the email clicks on it, think of it like a ticket number. They click on it, they come to SciENcv, we see, you're responding to this email that was generated by this PI. The person then signs into SciENcv through whatever way they have set up, and then we make that connection. We say, you came with this ticket, that ticket was generated by this PI, now we've made the linkage. So you can send it to any email you want. This, it's helpful to let people know that the email's coming. They can expect it. If they don't see it, like maybe you can go in, examine what email you entered in case you made a mistake. You can resend the email or have them look in their junk. I don't know, maybe if their client automatically files it as junk, have them look there as well.
Okay, great. So next question is, is there a demo site that folks can use in SciENcv?
So we don't have what you might think of as a sandbox, but anyone can go in. This is not just a scientist, maybe there's another use. Someone wants to, a biographical sketch looks a lot like a little CV or resume. We don't monitor how people are utilizing it. It's totally fine. You can generate as many as you want. I provided that link at the very end. The workshop that Sherry gave actually has a hands-on type thing. So that's kind of like a sandbox, these workbooks where you actually go through and you kind of experience what the process is like. So that's the closest thing we have. And I encourage you to look up that link and go see the workbooks that we've kept on the website since our workshop in February.
Okay, thank you. Another question that I see here is, well, can you provide a timeline for when any system updates will be made to SciENcv?
So we we continually make little improvements. Things will go out. I saw one question. It said, hey, in your video, I recorded the video a little while ago. It said, you said that view preview was coming, but it's actually there now. So yay, yeah, we got it out. We're always making little adjustments as fast as we can. We don't want to save them up. The next largest kind of update that's coming is that new interface that I was showing for the biographical sketch. And we anticipate that later this summer is when that should be available. And once again, nothing you need to do. Your data is all exactly the same. The form hasn't changed at all. We just brought the nice interface that current vending support has over to the biographical sketch side.
Okay, another question asking on the difference between the private and public settings for the BioSketch and current and pending support. Asking how you can switch it from private to public once it's created.
Sure, that's a feature that we're gonna discontinue going forward. In the past, we've made it so that you could post, if you made your BioSketch, you wanted to share it with someone, you could make it public, and there's at the top of each document there would be make public, and it's like a checkbox, I think, or a radio button or something. Anyway, maybe it was just a link, but you could switch it to public and you can make it private, but that we're gonna kind of discontinue. We don't get much use as public documents, and so it's gonna, future versions, you're not going to have that option. You can share the PDF, right? If you generate the PDF, you can make that, give it to people if you wish.
Okay, next question is asking about accounts being linked. So if you had an account with an email at one institution and then you move to another institution, can you link those accounts?
Yeah, you certainly can. So one of the options for signing into SciENcv, we use an in-common federated login system, and there's over 4,000 different options. Many universities across the US have this. You can look up and see if your university is represented there. So if you were at, say, the University of Wisconsin, and you had to sign in through that, and then you move to, I'll say Texas A&M, and you'll be able, that's a separate login. You could then use Texas A&M as a login to access that account as well. And you're able to manage all this. So, maybe you have 4 or 5 logins and I'm not at Wisconsin anymore. I want to remove it. There's an X. You can take that account, log in off of your SciENcv account.
Okay, so I wanted to move into a couple questions on the biographical sketch. So as many people know, the PAP guide states that you need to provide a list of the senior person's professional preparation and listed in reverse chronological order by start date. Can you talk about how this works in SciENcv?
Sure. This was something that we QA'd the heck out of, and it might, hopefully it's pretty straightforward. When you enter the data in SciENcv, when the dialog comes up and you're entering that data, it asks for start date and end date, start date, end date, start date, end date. I think on the form itself, it only shows end date, but it's really happening. We are absolutely sorting on the start date that you had entered for each of those items. I think for the majority of cases, it should look pretty straightforward. If I started in 2010 and finished in 2014, and then the next start date was 2014 to 2018, you're only going to see 14 and 18 end dates. It's going to look pretty straightforward. If there was something that was a little off, like you might have a start date and end date, and then a start date that is in between those two, and an end date that ended before. So like maybe had like a long PhD and then, I don't know, something small in the middle. It might look out of order, but we are reverse chronological order by the start date. That is absolutely what we're sorting by.
Okay, so as NSF is moving towards this mandatory use of SciENcv in October, we have a question asking if SciENcv can import data from an existing NSF biographical sketch. So pretty much like reverse that information into SciENcv. And if not, what are your recommendations for folks that haven't used it yet?
Yeah, so the nice thing about SciENcv, I'm going to give you an easy option. If you're working within SciENcv, let's say you made a biosketch last year, you have a new grant application coming up, and you're like, need to update this biosketch. You can say, I want to make a new one, and just copy the one I did last year. We'll just transfer all the data in. You're off to the races. You can edit that new biosketch. Your old one remains static, remains the same. We don't have a way, excuse me, to import a separate document that you might have made in Word or somewhere else. You're going to have to just type that into SciENcv. But good news is you type it in once, it's in the system whenever you want to make updates or duplicate that. Or here's a great feature. If you've already done your biosketch for NSF and you have an NIH grant, maybe you need an NIH formatted biosketch. You can duplicate your NSF biosketch and put it into the NIH format. It's not a one-to-one connection. NIH asks for things that NSF doesn't, but it quickly gets all that information into the NIH form. Then you can complete the biosketch there. And it works the other way too. If you have an NIH biosketch, you want an NSF one, you can make a new NSF one based off your NIH biosketch. So once you have SciENcv, it works pretty well. Yep.
So we had a question about current and pending support, asking why delegates are not able to approve and download the current and pending support forms. And I'm going to give the policy response to this. It is because of that certification, which requires the senior personnel to certify that the information that they're providing is current, accurate, and complete. And that is done on download of the document. So I just wanted to make sure we covered that. And I think maybe a question where I can bring you, Stephanie, and back in with this, because we got a question asking, because we're making SciENcv required for use of the biosketch and current and pending, why would we consider linking it to Research.gov so that you eliminate a step of having to download a document and link your proposal with that? Perhaps you can give the NSF system response to that question.
Jeremy, can you reword it?
Yeah, so we're making SciENcv required for use of the biosketch and current and pending. Is there a way to link Research.gov with that tool to integrate those systems together?
I don't think there's an easy way to do that without starting fresh in SciENcv. Like if you have a fillable NSF format of your biosketch, there's not a way to move that over easily to SciENcv. It would be what Bart has mentioned. You should go to SciENcv once. It's just a one-time thing, and then you'll be good for the rest of our PABG updates as years go by.
Yeah, and one of the things one of the reasons that we are doing this outreach with SciENcv is because we really want to encourage more use of it as we are transitioning later this year to it being mandatory. So we really want your faculty to be out there using it now so that there's a seamless transition once we go live with that in October. We are just out of time, so I do want to thank all of our presenters and panelists, everybody that's been behind the scenes helping to answer questions. Thank you all again. Take care and have a great rest of your day.